Discover the incredible journey of Cornelius Vanderbilt, the unexpected billionaire who changed the course of American history. Cornelius Vanderbilt stood at the bustling docks of New York, where the air was thick with the scent of brine and ambition. The ocean waves danced like the dreams he held so fiercely in his heart. At just 19, he was a product of hard labor and resilience. His rough hands mirrored the toil of his father, a humble dockworker. Together, they unloaded crates and fished for pennies in a world that often overlooked them. Yet, Cornelius felt the spark of greatness burning brightly within him. The cries of seagulls became music to his ears, fueling a relentless desire to conquer the competitive sailing business. Keep your head up, Cornelius. Those who work hard will find opportunity. His father would shout, the pride in his voice palpable. Their community was tight-knit, filled with neighbors who lent hands and hearts. Cornelius absorbed the warmth of this support, living in a world where kindness thrived. He watched as families gathered for evening meals, laughter spilling into the streets. Yet, beneath it all, class barriers loomed, waiting to challenge his pursuit of success. He made his first moves with a small fishing boat, capitalizing on every opportunity to transport goods. Business was not easy. He faced cold shoulder glances from the wealthy, who believed the docks were better suited for those beneath them. Cornelius met their prejudgments with an unyielding spirit. "I'll show them," he'd whisper to himself, eyes set on horizons he had yet to conquer. Adversity was his companion, but determination made him soar as wealth began to trickle in. A rift formed with his family. Each ambitious step he took seemed to eclipse the memories of shared laughter. At a family gathering, the atmosphere crackled with tension. "You forget who you are, Cornelius," his mother said, tears welling in her eyes, her voice revealing the cracks of unspoken resentments. His heart wavered, caught between the price of success and the love that surrounded him. Yet, amidst it all, he spurred on, driven by the belief that one day he'd bridge that gap. Then came the winter that changed everything. The economy took a nosedive. Families he had grown up with faced despair. His heart ached to see his community, the people who had raised him, struggle amid their plight. Cornelius stood at a crossroads, wrestling with the values he held dear. Should he plunge headfirst into a promising business deal that beckoned him to greater heights? Or should he set aside his ambitions and throw his weight behind those who had once supported him? Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As the snow fell heavy that night, it was as if the world held its breath. Cornelius grappled with his choice as a phone call shattered the stillness, a loved one lost to desperation. A glaring reminder of the stakes. Would he risk it all for commercial success? Or would he cling to the community he owed so much? The weight of his decision pressed against his chest, uncertainty swirling within him. What would he choose? Would he walk the path of wealth that could alienate him, or answer the call of unity, strengthening the very bonds that once nurtured his soul? The answer loomed just beyond the horizon, like the first light of dawn, urging him toward a fateful decision. The silence in Cornelius's cramped room felt oppressive. He could still hear his mother's muffled sobs from the other side of the door, and it pierced through his resolve. Her grief was a constant reminder of the stakes involved. The chance to transcend his modest beginnings hung in the air like a double-edged sword. Would success come at the expense of all he held dear? The flickering candlelight cast shadows across the walls, illuminating faded images of families who once hustled alongside him at the docks. Each flash of light felt like a pulsing heartbeat, reminding him of the faces that echoed the laughter of his childhood, a laughter that now seemed a world away. Memories of fishing trips, sharing stolen moments of joy, and the warmth of friendship filled him with a mix of nostalgia and guilt. Those joy-filled nights with his community blurred against the stark reality unfolding outside, He stood up, the wooden floor creaking beneath him. Cornelius clenched his fists, wrestling with his emotions. In the harbor's chilly, icy grip, he understood that the threads of ambition could intertwine with deep-rooted loyalties. A drive pulled him toward the wealth he sought, but the faces of those he loved clouded his vision. The tug-of-war played out in his mind, and he felt each side bargaining for his soul. He opened the door cautiously, stepping into the dimly lit living room. His mother was sitting by the fire, her shoulders hunched in despair, her face pale. He felt an overwhelming surge of compassion. She had sacrificed so much for him. Kneeling beside her, he reached for her hand. "I'm sorry, Ma," he whispered, the sincerity evident in his trembling voice. "I never wanted to forget where I came from." Her eyes met his, filled with weariness and love. "You haven't forgotten, Cornelius. But you're changing. Just promise me you won't lose yourself in all this." Cornelius nodded, the weight of her words settling in. "Promise." But uncertainty gnawed at him. Moments later, the door swung open, revealing his best friend, Tom, fresh from the docks. He stepped inside, shaking off snowflakes like a wild dog. Tom's usual bright demeanor was overshadowed by the seriousness of the moment. "Corn, have you heard? The whole district is sinking. People are desperate. I don't know what they're going to do." Anger flashed in Cornelius's heart, quickly followed by grief for the lives being shattered around them. Just last week, they were both dreaming of leaving the docks behind. "I can't just stand by, Tom. They need help." His friend scanned the room and gave a resolute nod, swallowing hard. "Then let us do something about it. You and I. Together." The challenge ignited a fire in Cornelius. Why not find a way to help while still pursuing his ambitions? He envisioned using his growing resources to uplift his community. It was risky, but it felt right. "All right," he declared, determination brimming in his voice. "Together we'll find a way." As they shook hands, Cornelius felt the warmth of hope flooding through him, igniting a fierce resolve. Little did he know that this decision would set them on a path fraught with trials, pushing him toward a destiny he could never have imagined. In that moment of unity, as he and Tom stepped out into the brisk winter night, a sudden sense of clarity washed over him. He wouldn't abandon either side of himself. Cornelius would chase his dreams, but he would do so with his community at heart. Yet what challenges lay ahead? Would his efforts be enough to bring the change they desperately needed? Or would the weight of ambition crush his resolve? The icy winds seemed to whisper warnings as they trudged forward, unaware of the storm brewing just beyond the horizon. The street was unrecognizable beneath the early snowfall, a thick blanket covering the cracks and grime. Cornelius squinted, letting the cold air sharpen his senses. Somewhere in the distance, a father shouted after his child, laughter breaking momentarily through the heavy atmosphere. But it felt like a cruel joke, a short-lived happiness in a world weighed down by despair. "Where do we start?" Tom's voice broke through his thoughts, bringing him back to the mission at hand. The two friends had always been side by side in mischief and play, but now they stood on a precipice of responsibility, unsure of how to leap into the unknown. Cornelius took a deep breath, the icy air filling his lungs, and with it came a surge of inspiration. "The church," he said decisively. "If anyone can rally the people, it's the pastor. He knows what they need." Tom nodded, an understanding passing between them. They trudged along the snow-covered path, an unspoken determination guiding their steps. As they neared the church, the sound of singing wafted out from within, creating a sense of warmth despite the chill that wrapped around them. Pushing the heavy doors open, they stepped inside, and the scent of burnt incense and fresh wood enveloped them. The congregation was gathered, faces illuminated by flickering candles, an oasis of light amidst the darkening town. But it was the sight of the pastor, a broad-shouldered man with kind eyes, that caught Cornelius's attention. "Brothers and sisters," the pastor's voice boomed with authority, drawing everyone's attention. "We must stand together in these harrowing times. The storm may wash away our homes, but it cannot wash away our spirit. United, we can rebuild what we have lost." Cornelius felt a rush of adrenaline. There was something about the pastor's words that struck a deep chord inside him. It wasn't just about the structures they sought to restore. It was about the ties that bound them as a community. He leaned over to Tom, whispering, "We need to get involved. We can help him organize something, a food drive, maybe temporary shelters." Before he could dwell on his thoughts, the pastor glanced in their direction. "Cornelius," he called, beckoning him forward. The whole room turned, eyes expectant. "What do you think we should do?" The pastor's question felt like a lifeline thrown into turbulent waters. Only now did Cornelius realize the weight of this moment. It wasn't just his life hanging in the balance. It was everyone's. "We need to gather supplies," he stammered, his heart racing. "Food, blankets, anything we can offer. If we can work together, there's no limit to what we can provide our neighbors." The congregation erupted in applause, and a wave of nervous anticipation washed over him. Cornelius felt the scattered threads of his ambition and loyalty weaving into something greater, a purpose driven not just by selfish dreams, but by the hearts of the people he'd grown up with. Tom beamed at him, pride etched across his face. "Let's get to work." As the crowd began to buzz with excitement, the pastor gave Cornelius a firm nod, eyes ignited with hope. But amid the cheer, a nagging voice in Cornelius's mind warned him of the challenges ahead. It wasn't enough to rally support. They would need resources, manpower, and mileage to scale the efforts before the storm could cause further devastation. What if his original ambitions clashed with the new commitments he was building? Would he still have time to pursue his dreams or lose sight of them completely? Determined, he turned to Tom. "We'll make this work. We can't let them down." And just as they began strategizing, the church bells tolled ominously. A piercing sound echoed in the night, reminding them that time was running out. What if the storm came before they were ready? Would their plans fall apart? Or could they rise to face the tempest together? The night held many questions, and the answers seemed far too distant. Cornelius felt a tremor shake his resolve as the church bells chimed. Each toll echoed in the depths of his heart, a reminder that the clock was ticking. People began to disperse into smaller groups, their excited whispers creating a buzz that filled the room. For a moment, he felt lost within the thrum of their energy, like a ship adrift in busy waters. He clutched Tom's arm tightly, sensing the weight of everything they hoped to accomplish. "Okay, let us break it down," Tom suggested, his voice steady as he pulled out a notepad from his pocket. "We need to identify what supplies we can gather. Are you thinking local stores or reaching out to the bigger organizations?" "I think both," Cornelius replied, feeling a surge of confidence as he became aware of the flood of ideas coursing through him. The stores may not have much to give, but maybe they can offer discounts or even start a drive. And we should definitely contact the food bank. They usually have extra we can access. Tom scribbled furiously, nodding as he moved between ideas. "What about volunteers? We'll need people to help distribute things, right?" "Definitely." Cornelius glanced around the room, spotting familiar faces. "Let us ask around. If everyone pitches in for just a few hours, that could be a game changer." As the momentum began to build, Cornelius spoke with renewed clarity. Each idea sparked another, pulling in the support of others nearby. Susan, a mother of 3, offered her husband's truck. Harold, an elderly man known for his hearty laugh, proposed turning his workshop into a temporary shelter. It was incredible how, in a matter of moments, the community began to draw together. They shared laughter, excitement, and a shared purpose that warmed the cold atmosphere. But just then, a voice broke through the joy. A woman with worry etched on her face stepped forward. "What if the storm takes more than just our homes? What if it takes lives?" The room fell silent, the gravity of her words setting heavily on each shoulder. Cornelius felt his heart race. Doubts crept back in, gnawing at his determination. "But we can do something," he countered softly, trying to keep his own fear at bay. "If we act now and get everyone involved, we can save lives. Together, we're stronger than any storm." Tom stepped up, placing a reassuring hand on the woman's shoulder. "No one is helpless here. Each contribution counts, and if we stand together, we can weather this." Their words seemed to lift the shadows momentarily, but Cornelius couldn't shake the gnawing worry inside him. What if it wasn't enough? What if their combined efforts didn't reach everyone? That evening felt fragile, the fear of inadequacy lingering in the corners of his mind. The pastor's voice surged once again. Let us take this moment to first count what we have, and then what we can do. With faith we shall not falter. His words infused the room with hope, rekindling excitement and drawing everyone back together as they began to separate into teams. Cornelius caught a glimpse of Tom, who was already busy rallying others. A wave of warmth rose within him. They were united now, not just friends but caretakers of a community's spirit. Their dreams of personal ambitions felt so far away, yet somehow intertwined with everyone around them. Cornelius's phone buzzed in his pocket, pulling him back to reality. He glanced at the screen and saw a message flash from his brother, referencing a connection he could tap into for additional aid. A glimmer of hope ignited. Maybe they could expand their reach. As he turned to share the news, the church doors swung open with a loud creak, and the icy wind rushed through, sweeping out the cozy warmth of the room. A cold chill ran through Cornelius as he caught sight of a stranger standing silhouetted against the snow, eyes glimmering with intensity. Help is needed, the stranger intoned, voice low and firm, and it may come at a greater cost than you expect. Cornelius felt a shiver run down his spine. What could this person want? And how would they impact the precarious balance they were starting to build? The stakes suddenly felt much higher, and with them, the uncertainty that had been lurking began to take form. Cornelius's heart raced, a mixture of fear and intrigue swirling inside him. The stranger approached, stepping into the church's dim light, revealing a rugged face framed by a thick scarf. The man's eyes held a depth that hinted at stories untold, and despite the biting cold outside, the air felt charged with possibility. Who are you? Cornelius managed, taking a cautious step closer. The crowd murmured softly, casting curious glances at the newcomer. I am here on behalf of those who have been forgotten, the stranger replied, his voice steady, almost soothing. There is much to be done, and if you wish to help, you need to be ready for unexpected alliances. What do you mean, unexpected alliances? Tom chimed in, stepping forward to stand by Cornelius. He didn't trust this man, and from the tension building within him, neither did the others. The stranger scrutinized them for a moment, his gaze piercing through the veil of doubt. This storm is not merely nature's wrath. It's a catalyst for change. It shifts priorities, forces hearts to awaken to the real struggles around them. There are resources available, but the price may not be what you think. What kind of price? Cornelius's voice lowered, instinctively sensing that the man held knowledge he desperately wanted but was fearful to grasp. The stranger glanced around the room, ensuring they were not overheard. True assistance often involves sacrifices. It means asking for support where you least expect it, and trusting those who may have once stood in your way. The crowd shifted uncomfortably. Some nodded thoughtfully, others recoiled. Cornelius felt a spark ignite within him. He wanted to believe that change was possible, that they could rally for their community without peril. Are you saying we have to compromise our values to achieve our goals? He pressed, searching for clarity in the stranger's cryptic words. Not compromise, the man replied firmly, leaning in closer. Collaborate. You will find that common ground can exist in the most unlikely places. You just have to be willing to explore it. Silence enveloped the room, everyone processing the weight of the stranger's revelations. Cornelius glanced at Tom, who maintained a protective stance while weighing their options. But Cornelius felt a growing sense of urgency mingling with curiosity. Would they allow their fears to hold them back from finding new pathways to help? Okay, Cornelius said slowly, feeling the tension in the air shift. We're listening. How do we begin? The stranger's lips curled into a slight smile, a mixture of approval and challenge. You start by reaching out beyond your usual network. You'll face skepticism, perhaps even hostility. But remember, even the strongest storms bring unexpected allies. With that, he turned on his heel and stepped out into the swirling snow, leaving only a trace of presence behind. The church doors swung closed with a heavy thud, enclosing them once again in warmth but now bursting with an electric tension. Cornelius looked around, meeting the eyes of the community members who had once radiated excitement. A cloud of uncertainty hung above them, but optimism flickered dangerously close to the surface. "Are we ready for this?" Cornelius asked, sweeping his gaze from one anxious face to another. Tom stepped forward, determination gleaming in his eyes. "We can't shy away from the unknown. If there's a chance to gather more aid, let us take it." Nods of agreement began to ripple through the crowd, infusing the room with renewed vigor. But as they discussed next steps, Cornelius couldn't shake the feeling that something darker loomed on the horizon. What price might they have to pay for the challenge that lay ahead? He clenched his fists, steeling himself. With every new alliance they forged, would it deepen their bonds, or would it lead to heartache? The road ahead was shrouded in uncertainty, just like the storm battering down outside. "Tomorrow," Cornelius said, his voice filled with resolve, "we'll reach out and see where this leads." As the crowd began to disperse, an unsettling thought settled in his gut. Would they truly be prepared for the depths of sacrifice this journey might demand? They would soon find out, but one thing was certain: this was just the beginning. Little did they know, the stranger's link to their past was far more personal than they could ever imagine. Cornelius couldn't sleep that night. The whispers of uncertainty echoed in his mind, drowning out the soft hum of the snowstorm outside. He tossed and turned in the flickering light of the church, the shadows dancing on the walls like ghosts of the past. Tom, seated in a pew near him, looked just as restless as dawn broke. A sliver of light crept through the stained glass, casting colorful patterns on the floor. Cornelius felt a sense of urgency rise within him. He needed to act. "Tom, wake up," he urged, shaking his friend's shoulder gently. "We need to move." Tom blinked, groggy but alert. "Where to?" "Start reaching out. Check on our neighbors. See who we can trust and who we can convince," Cornelius replied, feeling a surge of determination. "We can't wait for help to come to us." The snowstorm had lessened, but the chill was still biting when they stepped outside. The air was crisp, filled with swirling flakes that sparkled in the sunlight, a stark contrast to their daunting mission ahead. They began with Mrs. Henderson, an elderly woman from down the street. She had always been a source of wisdom in their community. As they knocked on her door, Cornelius could feel his heart race, not from fear, but from hope. "Cornelius, Tom, what a lovely surprise," Mrs. Henderson exclaimed. Her voice warmed despite the cold air as she ushered them inside. The smell of baked bread wafted through the home, a stark reminder of the comfort that family and good food could offer during tough times. "Mrs. Henderson, we need your help," Cornelius said, after they made small talk. "Things are changing, and we want to gather support for the community. We need to reach out and collaborate, even with those we might not see eye to eye with." "Collaboration, you say?" She narrowed her eyes thoughtfully, shifting in her chair. "You boys know that trust doesn't come easy." "We know," Tom said earnestly, "but we have to try. If we don't, we'll be stuck waiting for someone else to save us. And that could take forever." Mrs. Henderson leaned back, her expression softening. "Well, what you're proposing sounds risky, but if you believe in it, maybe it's worth a shot. I can rally a few folks at the community center. They trust me, and we all know the stakes are high." Cornelius' heart soared. "Thank you. That's exactly what we need." As they left Mrs. Henderson's home, they felt lighter. The road ahead still loomed large, but now they had taken a small step. The sense of community flickered back to life, warming Cornelius' spirit against the biting cold. Their next stop was the local bakery. Mrs. Carter, the owner, had always had a differing opinion on politics, often at odds with Cornelius and Tom. As they approached, apprehension crept in. But Cornelius remembered the stranger's words about unexpected alliances. "Let us just try," he whispered to Tom. "After all, what do we have to lose?" Mrs. Carter opened the door with a curious expression but quickly shifted to surprise upon seeing them. "Cornelius, Tom, this is unexpected. What brings you here?" "Mrs. Carter," Cornelius began, hesitating only for a moment. "We need your expertise and help. We're building a new coalition." As he spoke, he felt an unexpected wave of confidence. The words came more easily than he anticipated. They discussed how daunting the situation was, and before he knew it, she was nodding along, her skepticism softening. "All right, I'll help, but only because I can see you truly care," she said, crossing her arms defiantly. "Just remember, if you propose this, you better believe it will take effort." Tom grinned, excitement bubbling in the air. But just as they began to celebrate their unexpected victory, a shadow fell over Cornelius. A distant rumble sliced through the joy, voices rising in anger echoed through the street. What had begun as an attempt to unite could turn into another battle, this time against those who didn't believe in their cause. "Cornelius," Tom whispered urgently, "what is happening?" Cornelius's heart raced again. He turned, as a familiar face emerged from the crowd, a face he thought he'd never see again. There stood Leo, the town's biggest skeptic, and their greatest rival. "Cornelius," Leo called out with a smirk, "you really think you can turn this storm into sunshine, don't you?" It seemed their journey was about to take a turn no one could have anticipated. How would they stand together against this new challenge? Cornelius felt a knot tighten in his stomach as he looked at Leo. There was always a sense of unpredictability about him, a wildfire ready to spark trouble just for the sake of it. The crowd began to gather, whispers spreading like ripples across the surface of a still pond, reflecting unease and curiosity. "What are you doing here, Leo?" Cornelius shouted back, trying to keep his voice steady. There was an urgency in the air, heavy with the weight of the moment. "Oh, just enjoying the show," Leo replied, folding his arms with a sneer. "You really think you can bring everyone together? This place is broken, Cornelius. Better to let the pieces fall where they may." The crowd flinched at his words, unsure of which way to turn. Tom, sensing the tension, stepped closer to Cornelius. "We have to show them that unity can work. We're not just a group of individuals. We're a community." Cornelius felt Tom's conviction ripple through his veins, igniting a fire within him. "Listen, everyone," he called out, trying to break through the murmur of dissent. "We're here for a reason. There's strength in numbers, and together we can weather this storm." Leo laughed, a harsh sound that cut through the hopeful atmosphere. "What you need is a wake-up call. People are tired of your idealism. They want real solutions, not fairy tales." A few people in the crowd nodded, uncertainty clouding their faces. Cornelius looked around at their familiar expressions, the faces he had grown up with, faces he believed in. "This isn't about us, Leo. It's about the kids who need a better future, the families struggling to get by. It's time we stop fighting each other." There was a flicker of acknowledgement from some in the crowd, followed by silence. Cornelius leaned into it, seizing the moment. "Today we can stand up as one. We have enough challenges as it is without turning on one another. If we're going to face what's coming, we need to do it together." Tom took a step forward, his voice unwavering. "We're gathering support for everyone, including those who disagree with us, but we need to break down the walls first. We can't let fear control us." The murmurs began transforming, turning into murmurs of agreement. A woman in the crowd raised her hand. "I trust Cornelius. He helped me when my son was sick. If he believes we can do this, maybe we should give it a shot." "That's it." Cornelius felt the tension release a bit, energy shifting back to him. "The past has been riddled with fights and disagreements. This is our chance to change that, to build something stronger." But Leo's presence loomed ominously. "And what happens when the first storm hits? You'll be left holding the pieces, Cornelius. And I'll be there watching." As the crowd began to rally, fueled by both fear and hope, Cornelius steeled himself. He had to rise above Leo's taunts and grasp the sliver of unity forming in front of him. Even amid whispers of doubt, he felt an awakening, a new belief in what they could achieve. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed nearby, drawing everyone's attention. A window shattered in one of the storefronts as a group of rowdy teenagers made their way down the street. The tension in the air thickened again, merging fear with determination. We need to act, and fast, Tom whispered urgently, looking towards the chaotic scene. We can't let this spiral, Cornelius replied, his heart pounding. Let us show them that we're in this together. Just as they turned to address the crowd, a chilling realization washed over Cornelius. Unity was fragile, and the storm was much closer than he thought. Could they stand tall against both the external chaos and their own internal battles? Would they outlast the storm, or would the fractures in the community tear them apart? Cornelius took a deep breath, drawing the resolve he needed to press forward. The crowd's eyes shifted from him to the chaos unfolding just down the street. The sound of shattering glass still echoed in his ears, a harbinger of the destruction that could follow. Stay focused, he shouted, forcing his voice to carry above the noise. We can't let fear guide us. We're not here to let some kids break what we're trying to build. Tom joined him, rallying the crowd with an intensity that hung in the air like electricity. This is our moment. We can show them what a united front looks like. We need to step in, not pull away. But Cornelius felt the weight of doubt pressing against him. His eyes darted to Leo, who seemed to bask in the chaos. A smirk plastered on his face as he observed the uncertainty ripple through the onlookers. How can we be strong when they're out there acting like this? A voice called out from the crowd, fear and anger mixing in the tone. A man stepped forward, point clenched. What if they come here? What if they turn on us? That's exactly what Leo wants, Cornelius replied, his voice steady but urgent. But if we can stand united, we can change the narrative. We have to believe in each other. We've been through too much to back down now. The crowd hesitated. Cornelius felt the pendulum of hope and fear swing wildly. He locked eyes with a few familiar faces, people who struggled, people who had dreams, the community that had raised him, and he found strength in their hesitance to turn away. With newfound courage, he turned back to the chaos. Let us push past the anger. Let us take a stand. We can be more than just bystanders in our story. Tom nodded, stepping forward into the fray, flaring his arms wide. Who wants to join? Who's ready to turn this around? A few restless souls began to move from the crowd, inching toward Tom, nodding their heads. Then, one brave soul shouted, "Count me in," and another immediately followed. One by one. People began joining in, fueled by a mix of fear and hope, and soon they were a line of determination moving forward. Cornelius felt the adrenaline course through him. He let out a breath, feeling lighter. This was it. They were ready to confront the chaos together. But as they found themselves marching towards the noise, a screeching vehicle pulled up, and a group of stark figures emerged. Cornelius recognized them instantly, friends turned foes, their faces twisted with anger. "We're not just going to let you take over," one of them yelled, stepping forward as the first wave of shouts collided in the air. "Leo's right," another chimed in, spitting the words like venom. "You think you can fix this mess? Look at what you've started." Cornelius' heart raced. Everything teetered on the edge. The peaceful patch he had envisioned was crumbling. But even amid the chaos, a single thought emerged: if they could confront their fears, they could find the unity they desperately needed. "Why are you here?" Cornelius yelled back, just loud enough to drown out the chaos, grasping for understanding. "We don't need to fight. We can talk this through." The tension hung thick before it burst like a dam with their angry chants, and Cornelius felt the boiling emotions of discontent rising around them. With every heartbeat, he realized they were at a crossroads. Could they mend the fractures threatening to tear them apart? Or would it all unravel in a flash? "Let us talk," he implored one more time, and for the briefest moment, silence enveloped them, weighing heavy in the air, leaving everyone waiting for what would come next. The course of history, just as the silence flared, Leo stepped forward, his smile now a sneer, twisting the air thick with tension. "You want to talk? What could we possibly gain from you?" he jeered, his voice cutting like glass. Cornelius could see the disbelief on the faces of people who had once stood by him. The friends he'd grown up with now seemed like shadows. Lost in a battle they didn't want to fight. His heart sank a little deeper. "Look around," he said, sweeping his gaze over the crowd. "We're all hurting. This chaos, it only pulls us apart. For a moment he felt absurd, standing there pleading for reason amid so much chaos. But it was a gamble he had to take. Anyone here remember how it felt when we first built this place up? He continued, his voice softer now, marked by genuine warmth. We were proud, hopeful. We didn't just make a community. We became a family. We fought together. We can still do that. The faces of the crowd flickered with recognition, a few nodding reluctantly, as if recalling shared memories. But Leo wasn't hearing any of it. That's where you're wrong, he spat. You think memories can fix what's broken? You want to play nice while you're standing in our way? Leo, we all know you didn't want it to end like this, Tom interjected, stepping in as a barrier. We all wanted something better. Right now, we're letting our anger build walls as tall as the ones we tore down. But Leo only grew more furious, eyes ablaze with resentment. You talk about walls? You've built the highest one by excluding us from what you decided was yours. There were murmurs of agreement from his followers, fueling the flames. Cornelius felt that familiar doubt creeping back, like a cold hand on his shoulder. Did their connection mean nothing anymore? Don't you understand? Cornelius called, desperation creeping in. This isn't ours. It belongs to all of us. We can make it better together. As his words hung in the air, he caught a flicker of doubt in one of the young men behind Leo. That brief blink of humanity gave him hope, a tiny spark in the storm. But before he could reach out to him, Leo slammed his fist into the ground, and the echo reverberated like shattering glass. Forget it. We're done talking, he declared, galvanizing his crew into a chant that roared up like thunder, challenging the very ground beneath them. Let us show them what we're made of. Cornelius' heart raced as the crowd began to swell. He glanced back at Tom. What now? Tom's gaze locked on Leo, then shifted. We make our stand. Not with fists, but with voices. Keep talking, Cornelius. The chant escalated, but Cornelius remembered the quiet of shared hopes. He stepped forward, feeling the eyes of everyone on him. We don't need to shout to be heard, he yelled, fighting against the noise, desperately seeking to reach that flicker of doubt in Leo's eyes. Look around. What do we really want this place to become? But before he could finish, a sharp whistle pierced through the chaos. A squad of officers arrived, their presence amplifying the fear that buzzed in the air. Cornelius felt breath hitch in his throat as they lined up, creating a barrier between him and the oncoming tide of turmoil. Stay calm, shouted an officer, but chaos only expanded, a wild animal needing to be tamed. What will happen next? Cornelius asked himself as the noise of shouting continued to build, merging with the frantic sirens. Uncertainty gripped him, but there was an undeniable resolution within. They had to make it through this moment, whatever it might cost. Will we come together, or will we let this moment define us? He whispered, rallying his resolve. Once again, silence fell momentarily over the crowd as everyone steeled themselves for the choices looming in the distance. The light fading from the day mirrored the uncertainty that surrounded them, but somewhere, deep inside, a fervent cry for unity ignited. Can we rise above the chaos? Cornelius thought. The answer rested not only in his hands but also in the hearts of those around him. Would they find a way? The future they had, built together, teetered on a knife edge, and every heartbeat echoed the question. Would they be brave enough to seize it? The air crackled with tension, but it was also laced with hope. Cornelius felt the wavering spirits around him, and he knew this moment would either bind them or shatter their community entirely. He took a deep breath, steadying himself against the cacophony that demanded attention. Listen to me, Cornelius shouted, his voice breaking through the tumult. We've fought too hard to give in now. We can't let anger dictate our choices. We need to lean on each other, not push one another away. An uneasy hush fell over the crowd. Faces softened, uncertainty replaced with a flicker of recognition. Then, a young woman stepped forward, her eyes bright. We came together to build this community, right? We can come together again. Her courage sparked murmurs of agreement, and Cornelius felt the flame of unity rekindle. "That's it," Tom added, stepping alongside Cornelius. "We have to remember the laughter and the dreams we shared. Let us not let a storm tear us apart." But Leo's group wasn't easily swayed. Their shouts carried more venom than resolve, but even they hesitated. Cornelius glanced to the side and caught sight of that flicker of doubt on the face of the boy behind Leo. "What about you?" Cornelius shouted, locking eyes with him. "What do you want your future to look like? Do you want it filled with anger and division? Or do you want to fight for something better?" The boy hesitated, torn between loyalty to Leo and the call of Cornelius's words. That flicker of humanity seemed brighter now, and for a moment, it held the potential for change. "Together, we can create a place where our children can grow without fear, where dreams can flourish." Cornelius pressed, drawing strength from the memories of their shared past. Then, Leo's voice cut through again, louder than before. "You're living in a fantasy, Cornelius. Nothing changes." "No," Cornelius countered, fervor rising within him. "Change begins with us. We have to open our hearts and our minds. We've spent too long fighting instead of working together. It's time to break those barriers." With renewed determination, Cornelius turned to the crowd. "What do you say? Are we ready to stand together?" At first, the crowd wavered, but slowly, hesitantly, they began to nod, some voicing their agreement. "I'll stand with you," shouted Mrs. Henderson, her voice ringing clear. "We can't let fear rule our lives." Others followed, adding their voices to the chorus until the confidence grew. "Yes, together." Across the divide, Leo's expression faltered slightly, and for just an instant, the storm of anger dimmed. "Think about what we are capable of," Cornelius urged. "If we join our strengths instead of highlighting our differences, we can weather any storm. We can restore our community, brick by brick." Emboldened by this spirit of defiance, people began stepping forward, breaking out of their apprehension. "We can do this," they cheered, a ripple of conviction spreading through the crowd. "Join hands," Tom urged, reaching for those around him, invoking a chain of unity that yanked everyone into a single thread. The darkness of doubt flickered under the weight of their combined hope. Even Leo stood there, struck dumb. But Cornelius knew their old friend within him was still there beneath the anger. "Look around you, Leo," he implored, his voice softening. "We are a family. Don't you remember?" The energy shifted, as if something inside Leo had clicked into place. "We can't keep pretending everything is fine while it's falling apart," he barked, resisting the pull toward agreement. But it was no longer just about anger. It was about potential. "This is our home, our families. We can't fight each other." Cornelius pleaded one last time, voice steady. Suddenly, the young boy spoke up, stepping forward. "I want a future that makes my family proud. I want a future where we all belong." His words dripped with earnestness, piercing through the fog of conflict that had clouded the evening. And that was it. Leo faltered in his stance. We don't have to fight," he finally said, his earlier bravado faltering. Cornelius felt its strands of hope weaving together, mending the fabric of their community. "No, we don't. Let us build something together. Let us let go of the past and move forward." The crowd erupted into cheers. A collective realization washed over them. They would face the storm together. As the night deepened, they breathed life into their plans. They set to work rallying support, redistributing resources, reaching out to those forgotten. They came together not just as neighbors but as family, all bound by the same desire. Cornelius looked around, the camaraderie swelling inside him. The storm didn't cease, but they would stand strong against it. Side by side, they transformed fear into determination. And as they began this journey, Cornelius understood. True leadership ignites not just in crises, but in the willingness to embrace and uplift one another. Together, they were ready to change the course of their history, turning the tides of uncertainty into waves of empowerment. This is the moment. You need to subscribe now to not miss the next exclusive stories of transformation. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and let everyone know our community is unbreakable. Comment your reactions and feelings about the ending, and share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this powerful transformation. Don't wait not even one more second to support the channel. Only true fans like you understand the importance of these actions.